Welcome to today's Around the WaterCooler panel discussion. I am lucky to be joined by three more experts who are going to be talking about the meaning of going to work and how it's changed and perhaps what happens next. As I said, I've got three experts to do that. First of all, Seamus McCorry, would you mind telling everyone who you are and what you do?
Hello there, Seamus McCorry. I'm the Regional Director for Virgin Media O2 for Northern Ireland.
Milan?
Hi, my name is Milan Topolic and I'm the Technology Innovation Manager for Coca-Cola Hellenic.
And lastly, Brian.
Hello, my name is Brian Roche and I am Director of Information Technology at Belfast City Airport.
Perfect. Look, thank you. Let's dive into this conversation because we've only got about 20 minutes or so. So Seamus, I'll come to you first. We're talking obviously about the meaning of going to work having changed. Northern Ireland is a bit of a skills hotspot in certain industries. Do you think the events of the last 18 months are going to help that in terms of skills and innovation? Are you going to be able to keep hold of the talent in the region, I suppose, to a greater degree than you might have been able to do so before?
I do. I think the meaning of work has definitely changed. The idea of going back to 5 days in the office, 9 to 5, is not going to come back anytime soon. Our view as a company and speaking to our customers is that people are looking at hybrid environments where there is a balance between being in the office for certain tasks, but the rest of the time being home and being focused. So the view that work can only happen in a building in the centre of Belfast, for example, where we are, is ridiculous. You know, we've worked very well the last 18 months, very, very successfully actually for the last 18 months, being spread across the region. So people are working in kitchens and living rooms and spare rooms. So work is definitely no longer a nice corporate office in the centre of Belfast. It's where we need it, where it works for our individuals, where it works for our team members, with young children and families, and where they feel most comfortable at. But there is a balance.
Let me just throw this at you. Whilst it's no doubt good for the region, is it necessarily good for the three of you, being businesses based in Belfast? And I say that with an entirely loaded question because my team member here in what I do on a day-to-day basis is moving to Northern Ireland. He's not going to go work for a business in Northern Ireland. He's going to carry on working for me for a business here in predominantly in London. So you might have people moving back to Northern Ireland. He's got a Northern Irish girlfriend, to give some more context. But it doesn't necessarily mean that the skills are going to come back to Northern Irish business, right?
We've never just worked as Northern Ireland businesses. We are a UK-led business. We work with customers across the region, across both Scotland, England, Wales, Republic of Ireland. We have never just been centred on serving customers in Northern Ireland. We are a very outward-looking region. Historically, we had a brain drain. People would have left Northern Ireland after graduating from Queen's or some of the great universities here to go and work in London or New York. But actually, there's always been probably a lack of incentive for these people to come home and build those skills locally. The use of technology has probably will enable that to be much more successful for these people, because your colleague now can work from Belfast or wherever he moves to in Northern Ireland. He will have super fast broadband, he'll have great connectivity through the city airport from Brian, and he'll have great refreshments from Milan. So why would you not move?
Look, and I say that
maybe you should all move, David.
I say that to be a complete devil's advocate, right? And Brian, you might have a view on this, because it's a tricky one, isn't it? You could employ someone theoretically from anywhere, and equally someone could come back to Northern Ireland but not work for one of your businesses that would have been traditionally based in Northern Ireland. So knowing what culture is because of that hybrid nature brings both plus points and negatives, I suppose, Brian, and it's a little bit more of a nuanced market to operate around.
So, I mean, the skills market is highly challenging at the moment in finding the right people for the right roles. There's more roles than people available at the moment, especially in hospitality and aviation. We are, an airport is a fixed point location. We have a whole load of roles that have to be done on site, and there is no choice about that. You can't check the feasibility of an aircraft's safety remotely. as much as you might want to be able to do that in the future with technology, you know, you have to look and see it. We have to have our fire staff on site to be able to operate the aerodrome because of the category of aircraft that we fall in. So there are a whole load of roles that can't be done remotely. But then there are roles that can be done remotely. And I think what's really important is having the right values and cultures to enable that sort of cross-functional communication and not lose any productivity as a result of the circumstances that we find ourselves in, to ensure that everybody can deliver according to the business's strategy and needs. And I think one of the ways that we as a business enable that is by keeping a really close eye on our health and well-being of our teams. You know, we did top tips throughout the lockdowns on how to maintain anything from computer security to increase productivity. Things like, you know, giving guidance around ensuring that you separate your sort of work time from your family time and your personal time. You know, a Zoom call doesn't need to be an hour long. It can be 45 minutes long to ensure you get that mental break between different sessions. So for me, it's really about having the right culture, having the right values in place to enable people to be productive for the business. I think what we've seen as an outcome of that is that there's a lot less, you know, consideration about time in the office from 9 to 5. It is much more aligned to getting tasks and projects completed within the required timelines that they are. So it's not about going, why aren't you in the office from 9 to 5? It's about, you know, how do we deliver these projects? How do we deliver our service to our customers without any detrimental effect for our business? And we do that by ensuring and working closely with our entire team to ensure that they are working in the right manner, both for them and for the business. I think it's a two-way street. And I think one of the things that we've certainly seen throughout this whole process is a really in-depth engagement in a different way between leadership and the wider team.
When we're talking about health and well-being, I think this would be an interesting point, because I suppose when we transitioned to this new way of working, people were adapting, and they were going from a legacy standpoint of understanding what office work was and then trying to adapt to a home working environment. The research that Virgin Media have commissioned talks about the lack of office time making new starters more nervous and young people concerned about their career development. So I suppose we've now got to a point where there's a new generation of workers coming in who've never known anything different and who have slightly different concerns. You've had some new starters, right, during this period of time. How have you found that dialogue with them?
I think the real thing is to drive inclusivity and being allowed to directly communicate with those individuals. You know, starting a new role for anybody can be quite an experience. You know, people are anxious, they're worried about how they're going to fit in. And with the complexities that we've had to deal with over the last couple of years, you know, we really put a significant spotlight in doing that. So, you know, traditionally when somebody joins our business, we would have, you know, that person would get to meet all of the executive team, they'd get their one-on-one sessions. And the thing is what we've done is we've really just moved that to a more virtual setting. And we have done, you know, not just work-related business communication, but also, you know, sort of the fun side, like online quizzes and sort of inclusivity type activities to try and push out the team culture that we have.
Milan, if I can bring you into the conversation, Brian raised the point that there are some roles that right now have to be physical and some roles can be remote. If we look at your organisation, before we hit record, you were talking about the fact that there are people who've been in the office continually. You've got manufacturing, a manufacturing aspect to your business, and so some people have been in a factory and some people have been able to work from home. How do you keep both parts of those organisations equally engaged? I suppose now we have a situation where there is a real dual culture appearing, and some people might feel disconnected. Again, looking at that research, 16% of people have felt disconnected working from home. That's got to be a challenge in itself with two different cultures.
Absolutely, David. I mean, for us, you know, when the pandemic hit, we wanted to kind of protect the business, but first of all, we wanted to protect the people as well. So our kind of sales force who are supporting the customers, always keep them safe, always keep them informed, always keep them included by providing the right information to them, and also our manufacturing people as well, who were continuously coming to the office, producing our products as well. And then you had the people who had to make that switch in a day. So our call center, who was typically in the office, you were telling them on Monday, on Wednesday, you have to work from home, and setting up their infrastructure, setting up that environment where, you're no longer part of a team, but you're working from home or your kitchen, and you also have to support the customers as well in that process while you are adapting. So once people kind of adapted to that very quickly, I might say, we had a job to do is actually to kind of bring people together again through town halls, management being very visible, accessible, approachable. It's the senior management team having open door days, reaching out to the people informally, just to kind of see how they're doing, how they're feeling, because people can, it's getting to them and it's taking its toll. You feel that you're no longer part of a team, that you're disconnected. And all of these things that we did in the beginning, very similar, the quizzes and informal kind of social setting, they kind of wear out, over time, and they're no longer fun, and then no longer do what they're supposed to do. So you have to come up with different things that keep people engaged, that you bring that connectivity back, not just within your teams, but cross-functionally as well. So people from the admin side of things reaching out to people in supply chain, people in sales also kind of reaching out to people in marketing, maybe in digital and technology teams as well. And we had our teams from digital and technology reaching out to different people individually just to see how they're doing, if they're struggling with technology, if we can help them in any way, on individual and collective basis. So for us, one of our principles, cultural principles, is trusting the team. And if you want to do that, you need to kind of keep up the collaboration, you need to keep up the conversation, and technology really helped us to do that. So for us, it was an effort that we had to do, and we're seeing now that people, when they were working from home individually, productivity has risen, but what we noticed is that team productivity has lowered as well. So we had to react on that and see how we can actually bring that up to the levels that we are expecting. And the only way to do that is actually to see how we can do this virtually, how we can do this in a hybrid way, because we don't feel that people are going to return back to the office. People will have to go to the office for certain activities.
Brian, I think you were keen to jump in.
Yeah, we've had a very similar experience with Milan, where individual productivity, especially in certain areas, has significantly increased. But the things and activities that you used to do to innovate, to, those brainstorming sessions, all of those types of things have been much more difficult to run. We've kind of found that you either go all virtual or all in a location, and that is what works. But of course, you have to take the safety of the people within the business before that. So, if you have to have face-to-faces, we have a testing regime which is reported through the NHS and all that kind of stuff. We had to isolate the fire building from the rest. You could only go there by appointment and with a test. You have to protect your people, but enable them as well. And you have to be empathetic and understanding to those who have to be physically on site, as well as those who have to work from home, because, working in an office can be really productive for some people if they have multiple children at home, or live in an apartment, or don't have space that they can use to have a quiet and productive place. So what we really had to do is drive the messaging from the executive team down through management about how important the care of our people was, and that everybody had to be empathetic of each of those resources' individual circumstances.
Seamus, I would be quite keen to get your view on this, because I suppose you will talk to a lot of different customers, like Brian, like Milan, who are employing different kind of styles there. Brian talking about kind of maybe everyone being in or everyone being off site. There are situations on a day-by-day basis where it is a little bit of one and the other. Even if you have a meeting where not 75% of the people rather are in the same room and 25 are remote, you might find that you're having a meeting on a video platform, and 3 out of 5 people are in the same office and have had a bit of a conversation between each other. What are the technology solutions what are the solutions that you're seeing to try and help make sure that collaboration does happen, as Milan was alluding to? Because the people in the office will have some of that pre and post meeting connection and discussion that others will miss out on.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that we've not mandated but encouraged people to switch on the cameras. Probably March 2020, when this sort of all started, we were doing virtual meetings, and 60% of the people on the calls had their camera switched off. They didn't want to be on camera. Maybe they weren't dressed, or they hadn't their hair done, or whatever. We do encourage our teams to switch the cameras on so that people visually see everybody. Yesterday we had a meeting with some people who were in the office and some people were remote from the office. So it was presented on a big screen. People on the camera all had the camera on. People in the room could be seen remotely. And we changed the setup of our desks so that we're all kind of facing the TV. So the TV is almost like a virtual part of our meeting. And we do encourage people not to be dipping in and out of emails or looking at the web. Try and be in the room without actually being in the room is one of the things that we try to encourage. And that's probably universal across most of the companies we talk to. They're using technology, they're using video to be seen, they're collaborating very well and very quickly. So there was a perception that perhaps decision makers would slow down, but actually what we found is that decision makers have sped up, is that we're having a meeting, it's a 45-minute meeting, as Brian alluded to earlier. Let's make a decision, we've got 45 minutes, as opposed to we're in the office, let's have a meeting about a meeting to discuss the meeting, and the decision slips into another day. So in a way, it's helped speed up the decision making because we've 45 minutes in the diary, we have an objective and an agenda. So a lot of it has been around how you chair a meeting now. So it's, you have an objective, you have an agenda, and you have a set time and you have a set schedules. We do miss, and lots of organizations do, the chat around the water cooler, the coffee conversations that happen before and after meetings. We have struggled to replicate some of that.
Let's turn the attention then back to Milan a little bit on that, because I'd like to pick up that point and something that Milan mentioned before as well. You were talking about the social events and quizzes. If we think about the future and how we keep culture intact and get the right mix of technology and policies going forward, we're recording this in early December. I imagine it will be going out either just in the run up to or just after Christmas. I was in the office yesterday and people were talking about various different Christmas parties. Some teams are having them, some teams aren't. Obviously, it's in the news at the minute whether or not we should be having Christmas parties or not. But there will be some instances where people get together and some people can't get together. What is Coca-Cola's answer to this? And I appreciate each organization is different. What are the reasons that you're creating for people to get together, like social events or charity days, that allow you to build that culture in a sustainable way?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a conversation about the Christmas dinners and how do we kind of enable people to get together in smaller teams and stay safe and stay protected, but also meet each other after a long period of time. So some people haven't seen each other for weeks or months. And I think that kind of you have to enable people to have that in a responsible way. So we are, instructing and the managers, the middle managers to do this in a really responsible way and to kind of define the events where, people can gather and, meet up and discuss different topics and different themes, not exposing themselves and not exposing the company because, the situation is changing on a daily basis. So we have to react and we have to be responsible as a company to protect our people, to protect our customers, their families, as well. But there's so many things that we can do, and we are doing that from, as you mentioned, charity events, supporting our communities as well. but also supporting our employees, not just from Christmas dinners, but team events, and also supported by technology as well. Because as Seamus said, a lot of the magic happens before the meeting and post meetings. We know that not many great ideas were born in meetings, but many great ideas were killed in meetings. So you have to keep that going. You have to keep that rhythm going and enable the teams to find their own ways how they collaborate, and to find their own ways how to kind of stay connected, create events that work for them. So we've seen examples that teams are now connecting between each other's finance teams and commercial teams, which are not kind of unexpected relationships which happen in a virtual space now, where people find ways to connect around common themes, around common challenges, around health and well-being, mental. We have mental aid people as well in the company who took over this role to help the other people with their examples. We have culture ambassadors, culture journalists who go and reach out to different people and get their stories out. We have Red Talks, which are where people are sharing their examples, their struggles, their difficulties, and their success stories. So finding different kind of medium and different channels where people can, communicate their message and communicate to other teams, which is really important for us. And we were able to replicate that in the virtual space. Obviously, we always get a really good feedback from our people when we can do that in a physical environment. Again, keeping everybody safe and doing this in a very responsible way.
The last point that I just wanted to ask, and I think I'll come to you, Brian, on this, because you mentioned about the executive and leading by example. You, like many organizations, as I understand it, went from a situation where working from home was a bit of a privilege for people in quite senior jobs to a situation where it was rolled out for a lot of people very, very quickly. Are we now at the point where we're reassessing, hang on a minute, we did that at speed, what policies worked, what working modes worked, which ones need to be readdressed to make sure that we do get that culture right and that it is seen as being fair and from the top, but for everybody?
Yeah, so I think firstly, privilege is the wrong word. I think that is necessity, that an executive team and business development resources tend to travel more often and therefore require that flexibility to be able to travel and move quickly.
Let me jump in and say, when I say the word privilege, that's absolutely not me casting aspersions on any of your organizations, but just from my own personal working experience, kind of how sometimes it might have been seen in the past.
I don't think it would have been perceived as a privilege in the past. What I do think is that the team are very appreciative of the work that we have done as a business to enable them to carry on and do their jobs. I think we have worked very steadily and inclusively to update our policies and processes and procedures to ensure that people can do their job, but their health and well-being is also looked after.
Okay. Look, thank you all for your time today. I think it's a fascinating subject that a lot of organizations are still working through. So your thoughts, I'm sure, will have helped many people watching, but thanks for your time. And if you've enjoyed today's session of Around the Water Cooler, please do stay, have a look around the website. There are plenty more of these sessions to dive into and episodes of the CIO Water Cooler TV.